Bartenderness.
Welcome to Spirit and Soul Podcast, a space where we share anecdotes, lessons, recipes, and the personalities of those in the service industry here in Atlanta and Chamblee today. We all love a great cocktail, but this industry is so much more than that. We've got soul too, and that's why you love us so much. I'm your host, Courtney, and today my special guest is Seth Watson. Seth is the founder of Distillery of Modern Art, aka DOMA. Get this, DOMA is not only a distillery crafting fine spirits right here in Chamblee, Georgia, but it's also purposed as a beautiful event venue, a lounge and cocktail bar, and last but not least, an art gallery. I've been to a couple of distilleries, but this one is very unique. It's very smart and innovative, a very innovative concept. I'm also drawn to the fact that it advocates for artists and creatives in such a strong way. As a fellow creative, I have a lot of respect for that, which I told Seth. I'm an advocate for artists. Buy more art, support your artists, support creatives. So this is just really just amazing concept to me. Seth, thank you for having us today. I'm so grateful to be here.
First of all, Courtney, thank you for having me and being in our beautiful space.
Yeah.
Excited for this.
Yeah, me too. How are you feeling today? We kind of already talked about that, but
Yeah, Wednesdays are hard in general because it feels, just like I was telling Courtney earlier, it feels as if the weekend is coming, and that's a beautiful thing. But for us, of course, that means ramping up to live music, cocktail bar being open, a bunch of tours, events, so it's not really a lot of downtime.
Yeah. What was the hardest part today? Or what was the most challenging thing that happened today?
I haven't seen my kids yet today.
Oh.
Yeah. I usually get to see them first thing in the morning, but I had to leave early for a meeting. And then I take that back. I saw one of them for about 20 minutes.
It wasn't long enough.
Carpool.
It wasn't long enough.
Nope. Asked her about school. She said it was fine. And
They
then
always do that.
I dropped her off. And that was the whole game. Yeah.
Okay, well, we're sipping on something right now. This is the rye whiskey that has not been released yet. Can you tell us a little bit more?
So we've been open now 2 years. And since the day that we opened, we started producing and barreling whiskeys, both bourbons, ryes. Of course, both those things take a long time to mature. I would say the day after we got our certificate of occupancy, we literally turned on those stills and just haven't stopped producing whiskeys. This rye is super special. It's just under 2 years of age. It is our first release of our aged spirits into the market.
Okay.
Still has not hit the market. It'll be out in the market next week into the mid of April. And this one is special. We're really big fans of white corn. We think that there's a nice subtle sweetness to it. There's a type of rye called a bruisey rye that is very much specific for the Southeast. And we really wanted to highlight grains from our region to make something beautiful. So mash bill on this is a 70-15-15.
Yeah.
And the difference in this type of whiskey versus a lot of ryes, you may know, there is a big floral note on it. There's a back finish of some butterscotch. There's a little bit of a tobacco taste to it. And of course, that beautiful rye spice that most people are familiar with. It stands out in my opinion. It's 100 proof. Doesn't taste like it's 100 proof.
No, it doesn't.
And it is going to only be a limited release, so we're only releasing about 140 bottles into the market, just the 2 barrels that we had at the time, and we'll of course continue to release as we go.
Okay.
But this is going to be the first and one of the most beautiful releases we've had today.
Nice. Yeah, guys. Exclusive. So you definitely have to try. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. Okay. Let's get into this. So I first met Seth at a mixer the distillery was hosting for influencers. I got to tour the space, learn about the brand, and I had a really great conversation with you. You were very transparent about the journey and the process and getting to this point, which was very inspiring. I'm aware of your extensive background in event production with Track 7, which was your baby for like 15 years, I remember reading. But also you spent a wealth of time studying spirits all over the country. So my question is, what inspired such a large career shift from event production to distilling spirits?
That's an awesome question. I think I get it often, and I think I have tried to pare back because there's so many pieces of influence that had happened. One of the most major things for me as I was running this design and production firm for so long were these relationships with creatives. I like to think of myself as creative, definitely not artistic, just have a love and a passion for things that somebody has to try hard to do.
Yeah.
That's what gets me out of bed in the morning. So for years I had been chasing craft spirits, just wanted the difference of really good spirits that somebody took time to make, wasn't made by some giant conglomerate that just put out to the masses.
Right.
And so as I was chasing those for so long, as I grew up, as I was able to afford more, all of the great whiskeys specifically became harder and harder to obtain. A bottle that should be $40 became $80, then $90, then $150. And that was really offensive to me because you want spirits to be affordable and approachable. You don't want them just for that percentage of people that have unlimited funds to spend on something they're going to consume.
Right.
So that kind of irked me the wrong way. And as I was coming to a close with this other business, getting ready to sell it, the idea was, okay, well, what's next, obviously, right? And so back in my mind, I just kept thinking the state of Georgia, the city of Atlanta has so few distilleries. And it always is in the back of my mind, can I make whiskey personally? And why not? And why can't I do that in the state of Georgia? So that piqued my interest to start. And so not even 6 months after selling the business, I sat down with my wife and I said, I want to build a venue and I want to make whiskey. She said, what? Looked at me like I was nuts because I'm a little nuts. It didn't make sense to her. And I said, just give me some time, but like that's where I think I want to go. She thought I was kidding, which, okay, it made sense because coming out of something totally different. So I spent the next number of years, almost 4 or 5, traveling the country, visiting other distilleries, spending time in Kentucky, just trying to understand what people were doing, where they failed, where they succeeded. And for me personally, when I talk to people, I much prefer to figure out where someone failed and got back up, because that shows a lot more grit, in my opinion. I think a lot of people can get lucky, have someone write a big check, and they can go and be successful. But what I love to learn from entrepreneurs is, you failed, how did you get back up? And that is the most valuable lesson that I can learn. And so I was taught a number of things that made sense for the industry. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and take my hand and try to figure out how to make whiskey. And partnered up with a distillery in the Midwest. And came in with some recipes thinking I knew everything there was to know about whiskey. So let's barrel 30-something plus barrels of my idea. The distiller there was like, this is not a good idea. And I thought I knew better. And I didn't.
We always do a little, we do.
10 grand later, I was dumping all those barrels into the drain because they were trash, which I was flabbergasted. It was one of those situations where you're like, well, what did you just do with all that money? Are you doing the wrong thing? And what I learned, obviously, was I don't know everything. No matter how much time I spent on the road with other people, I'm not a distiller. And it'd be foolish of me to pretend to be one without proper training. So all of that whiskey that we made to start was literally dumped down the drain. The distiller said, are you willing to listen to me now? And so we worked through more important information regarding the mash bills, what we actually wanted to do with it, and came to the conclusion that he knew better.
How soon was it when you had the 10 barrels and it didn't go so well? What was the time period for you to like bounce back? You know, because sometimes when you can get knocked down, that's a heavy knockdown. You know, so what was that time period? Was it like, oh, okay, no problem, next, or was it like, oh well, let me just sit back for a second? Like, where were you
I was humbled.
like,
I was humbled in hours, not days, not months.
I love that.
I was humbled immediately.
Get over it and move on.
One of the best things you can learn in any industry is that you messed up. You failed. The ability of small business, we weren't even a business at the time, but the ability to pivot, to say, I don't know it all, let's go. This goes back to something that I learned the hard way, where I had a business partner in the past where he thought he was the smartest guy in the room, and that's why we ended up just not working out. I don't ever want to be the smartest person in that room. I want to learn, and I want to surround myself from people that are way smarter so that we can grow and we can continue. So as soon as this guy humbled me, I basically would have just bowed down to him and said, you tell me now. I will use my palate to its best, to its best possibilities. But I learned quickly, and I said, okay, I'm done. I don't need to mess in this situation here. I'm going to learn from a better professional.
You need experts.
Always.
Always around you. Like, I completely agree with that. I was surprised to learn that that most of the distilleries. I was surprised to learn that most of this distillery's revenue was generated from distilling other brands' spirits. Like right here in Chandler, Georgia, you're crafting spirits for several other brands outside of your own all over the U.S. I think that's major boss moves. You know, I respect it, love it. But the way you're operating is such a really cool model to me. And I'm sure it wasn't easy to achieve either. But what has been the biggest challenge with that process and learning curve? And maybe you kind of mentioned that in the answer that you shared earlier. But I think that's insane. So, like, what's been the coolest part about that process? Maybe something that you've learned in that process. What made it so unique?
There are two parts to this. So
Okay.
when you get into the distilling industry, you have a couple options. You can immediately release a 6-year-old product that you bought from another brand, you've relabeled and put it out into the industry or into the market, if you will. Mm-hmm. Or you start from scratch and you just bide your time while, of course, you're putting a lot of money into producing an aged spirit, then it's got to go sit in a warehouse for 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 years. Ooh. How do you generate revenue? So when we were thinking through the business model, one of the most important things to me was we need multiple revenue streams. My first idea was I'm going to just build a venue and make whiskey. And I wanted to figure out, can I offset the revenue from the event space into the amount of money I would need to produce so much whiskey to store for years on end? And the answer was you can't. You can't.
Yeah.
You just couldn't do it.
Can't keep up.
So we definitely were thinking, okay, well, let's produce some non-aged spirits so we can put vodkas and gins and other stuff into the market. Let's just do it the best way that you possibly can. And then, of course, when I was thinking about the equipment that we would need, our bottling line and stuff like that, I didn't want to think small. Mm-hmm. So throughout my learning curve, if you will, when I was on the road, mm-hmm. I learned a couple things. One, you got to build bigger than you expect. Because let's say you're in a distribution agreement. So in the state of Georgia, it's a 3-tier system. We produce, we sell to the distribution company, they then sell to liquor stores, bars, restaurants. Mm-hmm. There was very little opportunity for us to sell direct to consumer. Mm-hmm. Okay, the problem is if you do well with the spirits you put out and the distribution company says, okay, well, I need to double my order, and you don't have the capacity to do so, you're gonna get pushed down to the bottom of a portfolio, and you could basically just get pushed out of the system. Mm-hmm. They're not going to come back to you if you can't produce at that level. So scalability is a big deal. Yeah. And so I didn't want to think small. I thought very big. And then I needed to figure out how to offset revenues. So contract work is a really big deal in the distilling world. There are a lot of brands, very few producers. And that was something that I learned in sort of the most ridiculous way. You can see on the market right now, and we'll just talk about whiskey for the second, there might be 40 brands that you're aware of that you may drink on the regular or use to pour in a cocktail. One producer is making all of them. Yeah. And just under a different label. It may even be the same mash bill, which is crazy. So thinking about that, I wanted to make sure that we built a place that we could accommodate other brands too. Because a wonderful way to offset revenue while you're trying to grow your own brand is to make products for other people. You can share costs. You can have the opportunity to make the products you want and then shelve them for a period of time. And so I built a bottling line and a production facility that while we're a small distillery, our production capabilities are very high. Mm-hmm. So we thought in our business model anyway, by year 1 or 2, we'd have some people come to us and look for us to make spirits for them. We weren't open 2 months before our first client came in the door saying, can you produce for us? Mm-hmm. And so immediately that sort of, it was a shotgun start for us where all of a sudden people were like, yeah, oh yeah, we want you to make spirits for us. We've got this beautiful brand. We can't make it in Kentucky. We're not making it in Indiana. Yeah. We want it closer to home.
Were you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
We were ready from the sense that we could do it.
Yeah.
We had not ever done it.
Got it.
So there was a learning curve. We had a client that came to us and said, what about bottled cocktails? You know how to make those? We're like, yes. Sure we do.
You always say yes, and then let's go back and try to figure it out.
They said, okay, we want 50,000 bottles. And we're like, yes. Mm-hmm. Yep, well, we can do that. Yeah, of course. We learned the hard way that it took a lot more than we expected, mm-hmm. but we got it done beautifully and we learned a lot from it. Mm-hmm. And so that was in the first few months of being open. Now we're in closing on year 2. We have about 20 clients across the country, as far west as the Pacific Northwest in Washington State and as far northeast as New York, where we're building or producing for that matter, anything from bespoke gins, vodkas, whiskeys, to bottled cocktails, to we've got 5 or 6 really awesome clients in the state of Georgia that are out in the market already that either got sort of screwed over from another producer, they dropped them because they weren't a big enough client for them. We love the little guy. That's who we are and that's who we want to help represent. So the ability to produce for these people, be honest people, be good brokers and make great product has actually springboarded us quite forward in the state. So right now, I'm going to make a percentage guess here that could be inaccurate, but I think we're making about 2/3 of the whiskey in the state right now.
Oh, wow.
Which is a bonkers number to say, and you can quote me on it all you want, but I believe we are making so much whiskey just for people here in Georgia with brands that you may well know and trust. We're making it here in-house because they trust us to do it.
Nice.
And I think small business that helps small business, everybody wins in those situations.
I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel that 100%. I don't, but I also have a mobile bar company, and I feel like in this season of where I'm at, when I first started, everyone had to just kind of do things for me for free because it was like, guys, I don't know. But now it's like year 3, and it's like I'm actually paying all these other small businesses, and it feels great because I'm just like, I just want everybody to make money. Like, we all grow together. Let's do this. So I definitely. The smaller side of that, but yeah.
A lot of people say it,
Yeah.
but a lot of people don't mean it.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to dive into another story without another question, but from my previous business, there was all this talk about collaboration and about mutually beneficial situations where everybody wins, but what it always turned out to be was always about finance, always about a financial transaction. And one of the biggest core reasons I'm surrounded by art and why we are so infused with the artistic community is because I was so sick of hearing it. I wanted to practice being able to support other people. So everything about our business, as you mentioned, our gallery, our events, all the things that we do are meant to highlight others. Everybody wants to make money. I'm a capitalist through and through, but there's a way to do it well and to take care of others at the same time and not be greedy.
Yep. I think that's really important as you grow. Like that keeps you grounded, that keeps you humble. Very smart. Let's see. So Doma offers something special for the entrepreneur, for the spirit lovers, for the cocktail enthusiast, for the artist, for the neighborhood. You pretty much covered all your bases. So did you set out with a target audience amongst these groups? Maybe we can dive into that. I don't know what that looks like because I know it's probably a lot, but I also want to know, you're a very intentional person. So why Chamblee and what was the draw with Chamblee, Georgia?
I love all of those questions. First and foremost, I don't love marketing. I kind of hate marketing. I get it. It's a means to an ends. But what I really wanted to understand from a spirits perspective. So one of my main drivers was, and I kind of touched on this earlier, is affordable and approachable spirits. I don't like the idea that people are priced out of something good. Just because it's so good, people are going to pay more for it. I hope and dream that one day everybody can afford everything they need. But what we were trying to do is blind taste tests early on. So I had done some recipe development and I was doing blind taste tests. So stripping back the marketing, we'll talk specifically about whiskey. I was ranging anything from a $12 to $15 bottle of whiskey all the way up to a Pappy Van Winkle, $1,000+ bottle. Strip the marketing, and in most tastings I would never do 10 tastings. 10 in a sitting, I'd keep it to 5 or 6. But I wanted to do 10 because I wanted people to see a range. Stripped out the marketing. And I did these for 2 years, probably at least 4 a month, where I did these blind taste testings. And the idea was to see, without marketing, how do people view a particular spirit. And with whiskey specifically, never did the very expensive whiskeys ever win. Not once. It was always the tried and true, the old granddads, even the Four Roses, like these very affordable.
I love Four Roses.
Same. Very affordable, very good tried and true whiskeys. And it showed me something that I probably already knew, which was marketing is more than 50% of a lot of these industries, definitely in the spirits industry. And what I learned also is, so something I know about wine, $12.99 is about the price point for the most average bottle of wine bought on a given day. In spirits, especially for whiskey, anything over $50 becomes a gift bottle. Anything under is an everyday pull. And what I wanted to do is sit in that sweet spot from a price perspective that somebody is not just buying that one gift bottle. because, okay, good for you.
I want you to have another.
I want you to drink it.
Yes.
And I want you to drink it every day and
Yes.
not feel like you're overpaying for something that you can't drink. Like, I drink whiskey. If you came to my house, you're like, oh, it's a whiskey guy. I have maybe 2 bottles of whiskey at my house because I drink them. I won't open the next bottle till that one's gone because I want to feel like I got what I wanted out of this bottle, then I put it to rest and move on. And so that was one of those things that mattered. So as we went through those taste tests, I understood my price point. We started to interview bartenders, beverage managers, and then just your average person, what they were going to the store to look for, what they were going to the bar to look for.
Okay.
And what mattered to me was how the bottle looked, how it was shaped for a bartender, if they could grab a neck, if the bottle fit into a well, how it looked on a back bar. So I was mocking up, I fell in love with this glass early on because it reminded me of a decanter. And the neck was something that was important to me that I learned from bartenders that they can grab it. You have a lot of bottles similar to this with short, nubby necks on it. It's more difficult. A bartender's less inclined. The stark white label, of course, the label's made from a canvas, and it's stark white, and it's not some funny name on it. You can call for it. It's easier. All these little segments of intention mattered to me. And so going through the type of people I spoke with, the bartenders, again, just the common drinker, I thought that we had a pretty narrow window of consumer. What we learned, and even since we've opened, is that it's actually quite wide. So it's not the young 20-somethings. It's about the 25 to almost 65 range, which is pretty wide. We've got people who just love great spirits, great cocktails. Then you have the younger generations of people that want new. They seek more from their brand. They want to know about the intentionality of it. They want to know how the grains got here, why they're here, why you made a particular spirit. And that's kind of one of our mottos. I'm becoming
one of those people. Like, I need to know what's in here. Like, is it?
It matters to people.
Processed, minimally processed. You know, like I don't want a bunch of other colors and. Give it to me as simple and clean as possible.
That's right.
We were talking about this earlier. We're getting older, and this is like I'm allergic to everything. I feel like I can barely drink alcohol, so please give it to me the cleanest way you can.
And that matters deeply to us, right? And so we say seek more all the time. It's one of our taglines for the distillery. We know that consumers do seek more, and that was sort of born from great conversations with 65-year-olds all the way down to the 20-somethings, because that mattered. And you want a brand that does something. There's more intentionality in general for a brand these days. If you're going to support a brand and not just passively enjoy something, you want a brand to mean something. We're alcohol, so like there's not like there's so much that we're doing that means something, but intentionality means everything. And I think most people, young and older, are going to appreciate something like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Great answer. Let's talk about the art. So clearly art plays a big role here at Doma, from the design and artists featured on the bottle, which we talked about, the murals painted throughout the building, to the gallery that rotates artists monthly. It's all around and all encompassing, mission achieved for sure. Can you explain the impact art has on you and why it's so important for you to have it here? I mean, you kind of mentioned supporting artists in general, but like personally, like where does that draw come from?
I'll jump really far back and then I'll jump right back forward.
Okay.
So thinking about a brand in general is a difficult task. As an entrepreneur, you want to make sure that it has meaning and it's not just something you put down on paper to sell products. And so I've always been a modern art fan specifically. I know it's a wide range, late 1800s to 1970s-ish. There's a big block of art that speaks to that genre of art, if you will. And again, from my production and design days, I worked with so many different artists that had so many perspectives. The things that I love the most about modern art, and especially in abstract, even in cubism, a lot of these parts of modern art are interpretive and subjective. And that art and spirit is as subjective as you can get, period. So I continuously was thinking about an angle for this brand. And throughout those taste tests I was mentioning before, everything was subjective. And art is the same. You might look at a piece of art and not understand it. The person standing next to you may see that art and say, oh, wow, I see X, Y, or Z.
That speaks to me.
Right. And so that I love. And that's the same with spirit. Every spirit we make, whether it's made at the most high quality, the best possible practices to be done, doesn't mean it's going to resonate with everybody. You might enjoy this. You might not. You might not be a vodka drinker, but you might enjoy the peach that we've added to that vodka to make it so special. So the subjectivity resonated with me wildly. And so when I thought about this higher end, more sort of involved and sensory experience of the facility, art was everything in that situation. And when you talk about spirits, it is part art, part science. It's a pretty big piece of what you understand, how a spirit's produced. And that's the same with art, right?
Yep.
Someone's inspiration means everything. So you can say that for art. It's their surrounding, it's their environment, whatever it is. In spirit, it's the grain, it's the temperatures.
Right.
It's all of those pieces combined. So the infusion of both art and spirit makes so much sense to me at every turn. And so for here, just thinking about each one of these spirits. So I don't know, you can see this on camera, but every one of these spirits has a different commissioned piece of art. So we had sent out these spirits to some artists here locally and just had suggested, hey, taste the spirit, create a piece of art that speaks to the spirit in the bottle. We were a little specific about making sure it was a 40 by 40 canvas and that it was abstract specifically. And the goal for that was, once we had that physical art, which is on display in our main hall and will be forever, we would digitize that art, and because it's abstract, we could cut it up well that on this 3-sided label, you could see art throughout the bottle.
So cool.
And then even on that bottle, the name of the artist is on there, the piece of art is named. And the idea is that we get to highlight local artists to begin with, but also this unique piece of art speaks to that unique piece of, that unique spirit in that bottle.
That's can we pause? I
Yeah.
just want to clap. I love artists so much, and they don't get the credit they deserve. Creatives don't, just in general. You know,
Absolutely.
people just consume. But like, I think art just makes you stop.
Agreed.
And so the fact that this is amazing. That's amazing.
At Spirit and Soul Mobile Bar Co., we are passionate about delivering a luxurious and unforgettable mobile bar experience. Our focus is on crafting soulful cocktails that not only taste exceptional, but also reflect the essence of each season. Our dedication goes beyond just serving spirits. We believe in the power of intentionality and strive to provide an impactful and elevated guest experience. We invite you to share your vision with us, whether it's an intimate gathering, a wedding, a corporate event, or any other special occasion.
To book with us, please visit spiritandsoulatl.com.
When we were building this building, it's not that big of a building. It's 15,000 square feet, but I wanted to make sure that we dedicated, it's about 1,000 square feet, 900 to 1,000 square feet of gallery space where we can take local artists. We pair up 2 at a time. We rotate them every 2 months. And the idea is that, one, it's only local people. So the state of Georgia, it's only artists from the state. And that the continuously rotating thing is obviously nice. It brings in a different demographic. It definitely helps change the core in the building. But these artists get to get highlighted where there are thousands of people that come through here on a monthly basis. They get exposure to all these new people. And one of the most important pieces that I mentioned before about a financial transaction, we take 0 commission from these artists.
Another thing I love.
All the gallerists that I spoke to are like, oh, you can take 40 to 60%. And I said, that's nuts.
That is crazy.
If somebody is an artist by trade and their only source of income is their art, and they want to sell a $1,500 piece of art, they only get half of it. That to me did not sound like it made any sense.
Yeah.
So one of the easiest things I could do is offer them that space for free. It's exposure, it's opportunity, and there's no financial transaction. So because of that, all of these artists do a lot of really cool stuff for us. We've got murals throughout this building, which were done pro bono. Some were done just because they wanted to display. We have an artist we work with named Jen Boaz, who's local here and an old friend.
Okay.
When every time we release a new menu, which is done seasonally, she comes in, tries all these new cocktails, and then takes inspiration from them and then paints a piece of art for each one of those
beautiful.
cocktails, and we get to display them in our bar. And that's not a financial transaction. This is an artist who loves us, loves the space, is inspired heavily by those cocktails, and gets to represent her art.
Yeah.
And of course she gets to sell it,
Yeah.
which is beautiful.
That is amazing. I love that. Absolutely love it. I have a really close friend that's an artist, and we talk about, you know, how in trying to get her art in different, you know, exhibits and galleries, how they do take so much, and it's just like, it's discouraging, you know?
Not only that, if you have not been in a gallery previously, you can't get into a gallery.
So
if we
discouraging.
become the jump off point for that, that's an awesome thing. We're really helping people, not to say that we're career makers, because that's a kind of like an absurd thought.
Yeah.
But the idea that we can help people move on to that next
It's
level.
motivating.
That's right.
It's just that bit of motivation that an artist needs to feel like they're seen. They're seen. We see you. You're doing an amazing job. Keep going. That's amazing. Love that. Okay. Another question, investors. I want to get really real with you here. This is a question for me, for real. So as another fellow entrepreneur, when I first started my mobile bar business, it was just an idea. I had at least 3 to 4 people that I knew that were interested in investing, which I'm like, oh, this is so great. These individuals were also entrepreneurs themselves. They saw the vision and they were like, sign me up. And I'm like, I don't know why I was so hesitant. I was a little hesitant, and I still am on that a little bit. I felt like it was too soon to involve other people's money. I didn't have a roadmap to how things would pan out. A part of me also felt like if they are willing to invest at my very humbling beginnings, let me hold out until I can really call some shots and demand more of what I feel like I deserve, or the business deserves, or what we could possibly do. So I know investors played a big role into the development of Doma. And so I'm curious to know more of your experience with that. So at what point in your conception phase did you realize investors were necessary? Was that always a thing? Like at the immediate beginning, you're like, oh no, for what I'm trying to do, for how big this idea is, I have to have investors. This isn't just like for me, I'm a small business. So you're not a small business. I'm a small business. So
I would argue.
I want to be, but I think big. I don't even like to call myself a small business because I feel like that's just too, that's trying to contain myself too much. I'm like.
I think the definition of a small business is like under 500 employees, for the record.
I don't even want, okay, well then, yeah, I guess I'm a smart business. But like, I don't know, in theory, I don't want to think small business. I just want to think big. So I do know at some point, like, I do want to expand because I want my business to be a machine, and I don't want to be involved in every daily thing. I know it takes time. It takes time, of course.
Absolutely.
But like, I'm trying to build a machine. So yeah, I know investors are going to be something that I'm going to have to look into and have at some point. So just through your experience alone, I don't know. What do you have any advice? What did you find that they assisted with you? Like, what did you find very valuable with those relationships? Like, I guess any general advice for that point and that transition.
I will tell you a quick story.
Okay.
We built this place. We did demo on this building in March of 2020. First week of March 2020. Third week of March of 2020, the world shut down because of a pandemic. That is not an easy time to raise capital.
Yeah.
I knew what I was getting into when I started. I did not have enough money to get this project done. I was on the road beating the pavement. So I'd worked with some consultants who had said, raising money in this industry is actually easy. And I was like, oh, that's great. And I bought into that. It was not. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, and I'm still doing it, and will always need to do it. This is a very capital-intensive business, period. The land, the building, the build-out, everything you could think of. I have a family. I have 2 small children. We are not wealthy human beings. We are bootstrappers who have had to figure everything out. And I did not realize the scale in which and the amount of money it would take when I headed down this path. I thought I had an idea, but it was like 10x what it needed to be, or it was 10x more than I thought it would need to be. And so I tried to raise capital during a pandemic. And you know what people don't want to do during a pandemic? Talk to a guy who's never been in an industry trying to build something that's going to cost a lot of money. Do business with a guy who comes from a different industry trying to build something in a market that is not overly helpful for a spirits industry.
Yeah.
Georgia's a very hard state to build spirits in.
I can see
A lot of regulation, a lot of holdover from prohibition. I'm going to keep repeating the fact that during a pandemic, nobody thinks that putting money into anything is a great idea. So we struggled. We still struggle. I think every small business does. I do think of myself as a small business. We are not.
Yeah.
We have a small team doing a lot
Yeah.
with that. just finding employees to work for a business where we were literally coming out of pocket to pay. There was no revenue to do so. Finding a distiller that was willing to come to Georgia, because the state of Georgia has so few professionals in this industry to begin with, was really, really hard. It's all really hard. The advice I would say is when you start any business, assume that you're going to need to raise way more than you expected. No matter anyone says, yeah, you need to double it, I'm saying 5, 10x, whatever you think you need to be able to raise. And finding actual businesses that are willing to invest is even harder. I was thankful that there were some people who believed in what I was trying to do, not so much the end result. So they invested in me, not necessarily the business.
Yeah.
So I'm wildly thankful for people
yeah.
who took a chance.
Yeah.
They
Same.
saw the business plan, they saw projections, but it meant nothing because we had never done it before. And so that is super tough.
Yeah.
There were only a handful of people that were willing to take a chance. We've picked up a few people here and there, and honestly, like half my job is raising capital still, because we'll never need less money. We're always going to need more. And as we expand to different markets, different states, even across the pond, because we're looking to export at this point as well, that's going to continue to need more capital than we are generating here as a business. So we have multiple revenue sources here. It's never going to pay for the expansion. It's never going to pay for more. So half my job is fundraising. And it's still hard to this day, even though now we have a proven product, proof of concept, if you will, and we're out there getting it done. There's always going to be a need for more money and more skeptical people or people who want to take advantage of you. So the best advice I can give in this situation is to, if you have the advantage of friends and family, to do so, but you got to find like-minded people who are willing to take a shot on you, not necessarily the business, because that's the only way people were willing to invest in me. The business meant nothing. It hadn't proven anything. Nobody had tested the spirits on a bigger scale because we were just working with the distillery out west. There was no proof of concept. And without that, a VC firm here in Georgia, they're focused on tech, they're focused on healthcare, they're focused on cannabis, all these things that have some bigger opportunities in them. Spirits is not big in the state of Georgia, and it is really hard to raise capital in general.
Wow.
Yeah, tough. I'm still doing it. Literally on a daily basis, a quarter of my day is trying to raise money.
Wow. Wow.
It's something.
That's sinking in. I'm like really thinking about it. I'm like, that's a lot of your time. Did you realize it was going to be that?
No, I bought in. So I had the best possible consultant. So not being in this industry previously, I needed a handholder. Someone helped me work through financial modeling. Somebody helped me with recipe development, brand development. Like I can draw pictures on napkins all day long for things that I'm interested in. Like this space, the entire building, each room is built after a particular modern artist that I love. How to conceptualize that, like I can draw things on napkins all day just from previous experience. Had to take that to a better professional. But when it came to brand development, when it came to liquid development, financial modeling, I had a really awesome partner in a company called Thoroughbred Spirits out of Illinois. Still with them today, still bounce ideas off them. Their main people are people I like think of as friends now and will bounce ideas off of, but would happily give my money to them to help me continue to push the ball forward.
Nice.
Without them, I wouldn't have been able to do any of it. But they are as real as they could possibly come to say, yeah, that's unrealistic, or yeah, you should shoot for the moon on this, or this will be a tough road, but you should try. Having somebody in your corner like that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
They're not handing me money by any means. I'm spending money with them. But finding people to trust in any industry is really hard.
Yeah.
Finding people who aren't trying to swindle you in some way. And then people who are willing to bounce real advice back and forth with you. That was huge for me. Because I'm one guy. There are no other owners of this building, of this business, if you will. I have investors, but very low percentage of this business is in the hands of investors. So it's me.
Yeah.
Which I love and I hate at the same time because one, I want to be the ultimate decision maker.
Right.
Sometimes I would love to just turn off the computer for 48 hours and not think the building would burn down, but I don't feel that way yet.
Yeah.
I have an awesome staff. We're very dedicated. I haven't lost a single person that's worked here since we opened.
That's amazing.
And we just continue to grow that.
Okay.
They're the most dedicated people we can possibly think of.
The team is everything.
It's everything.
It's everything.
There's not...
You cannot do it alone.
Nobody in my business currently, we're up to about 14 or 15 employees right now, there's nobody I could replace. Not to say that anybody is not replaceable, but these specific humans are here for a reason, and they dedicate way more than I probably pay them for to this business. And as we grow, of course, we try to take care of everybody, but like my distiller, my events people, my management team, everybody is so dedicated. They go above and beyond.
Yeah.
And truthfully, they can go anywhere else and make more money.
Yeah.
But they believe in this project. They believe in everything that we're trying to do here. And the ethos of what we're trying to put out there is there's some meat to it.
Yeah. And you set the tone, you know.
You
set the tone, you set the standard, and
I try to outwork everybody. So they can lead, I can lead by example.
Yep. Do a great job. Well, wrapping up, so let's do a quick speed round. So this is just rapid fire questions. So what's the craziest idea you've had lately? Something that maybe was challenging or your heart was set on seeing it through? This something crazy that could have been here, could have been outside.
That's actually come to fruition or just an idea?
Yeah, either or.
So we're a very small, young company. We're only right now currently distributed in the state of Georgia. We have registration in the state of California, Florida, and Texas. I want to expand, but not too quickly. We've had some conversations with people overseas from Germany, Canada, Korea, all these random places. And for some reason, I feel like we're going to succeed out of this country before we're even in multiple states.
Hey.
So exportation is something that blows me away, and I think if we can accomplish that, that's where I want to be.
I love your energy.
Yeah.
I love it. Like that. I love it. Okay. So what establishment do you feel is extremely underrated in the city?
What establishment is underrated in this city?
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe if not.
In food and beverage?
Food and beverage, yeah.
Underrated.
Or one of your favorites?
One of my favorites, so there's a group of restaurants. My favorite, it's the Unsulky group. So they own Local 3, Muss and Turner's, Rochambeau. So I wouldn't say they're underrated by any means. They also have this private club called Warhorse that I'm obsessed with.
What is it called?
Warhorse. It's right behind Local 3. It's connected to it. It's a private club. It's one of those speakeasy type places where you walk into an office building and it looks like it's a bank deposit box. And that door opens up. You go inside. It's a low lit, pretty much like a glamorized steak joint.
Yeah.
The service is on point. The drinks are incredible. The food's incredible.
Nice.
They imagine a country club without the golf.
Yes.
But that does not take themselves as seriously. So you walk around the building and you see these comedies from the 80s and 90s. All of the paintings that look like they'd be these overly staunch, like just old people type place. It's comedy. It's Trading Places. It's Caddyshack, like they're making fun of themselves while offering you this higher end experience. And it's one of those things where you feel like a big shot walking into it, but the service means everything to me. The drinks are obviously going to be great in general, and the food is also phenomenal. But walking into an establishment like that, it is, forget the private side of it, because it's kind of absurd that there's private places that you can go, but you are getting that level of service.
People love it. People love it.
I joined that place to begin with to raise capital, actually. So where do I meet wealthy people? It's going to be in a private club, right? That's where I'm going to go to meet folks. Turns out I fell in love with the place, and I feel right at home. Can get some of the best food and drink in town, and it's not a place where they take a lot of folks.
I love it. I'm going to add that one to my list. What is it called again?
Warhorse.
Warhorse. Okay, last question. What has been your proudest moment in the past 3 months, because March is almost over, of 2024? Most proudest moment?
It's going to be this right here.
The rye whiskey?
Being able to put out an aged spirit after all this hard work. My production team literally is here sometimes 16 hours a day building beautiful spirits. Not that these other two that you see here between our peach flavored vodka and our Amaro peach, these are all really awesome achievements that we've been able to make, but getting an aged spirit into a bottle and ready for consumers, this feels great because we're whiskey nerds at heart and we cannot wait to get these aged spirits into the market to challenge what everybody thinks a good rye is supposed to be.
And it is delicious. It's very smooth. It's very light, surprisingly.
A little bit of floral notes in there.
Yeah, it's definitely a sipper, but I think it would be great in a cocktail as well. Thank you for your time today, Seth. I really enjoyed this. always educational, always good conversation. Your energy, your fire for what you do, it's inspiring. As an entrepreneur, I'm just like, yes,
My wife will call
I'm
me a
ready. What do I
pitta.
need to do next?
Do you know the term pitta?
No.
There's I don't mean to take over your ending here,
No.
but there is, and I'm gonna butcher this, but
Okay.
there are types of people based on maybe their signs
Okay.
that define sort of your energy or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is. And a pitta is meant to mean like this fire, this sort
Yeah.
of always after it no matter what, never
Yes.
off kind of situation.
Yes.
And I
Love
see
it.
that, and like spicy food, good hard drinks, energy, all that comes from that same.
Yeah, I can appreciate it. I feel like I'm that way too. So
Yep.
anytime I'm around people that's like that, I'm just
Feed
like,
off
yes,
it, yeah.
let's burn everything.
Energy goes, man. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Thank you again. Thank you to Evolve Films for shooting today's episode. Make sure you check out Distillery of Modern Art. This place is beautiful. Yeah. Thank you, Spirit and Soul podcast listeners. Make sure you are following us on Instagram at Spirit and Soul Podcast and following us on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. And where can they find you?
Distillery Modern Art, Instagram, Facebook, the internet.
The internet. Do you
Yeah.
have it?
Do you guys have the internet? WWWs? Yeah.
It's
Thank
that-
you so much,
It's
Courtney.
that simple.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Bye. Have a good one.